Alright, hi everybody. I want to do another check-in because maybe you find yourself in the phase that I'm going to talk about. And believe me, it happens to everybody. And that is falling off track. I've definitely been there. I could say I've been there, I've done that. You know, life happens. And because we will all fall into this trap once in a while, I want to give you a few tips how you can also get back on track. Because really the beauty is, when you think about it, if you've fallen off track, it means that you've already been on track before. So you can always go back to that. You already know what that looks like. You've already done it before. So the only step to do is just getting back on track. And so here are 3 things that I want to remind you of. And this is very important. The very first one is, don't beat yourself up. And maybe now you think, well, easy to say. I'm already in the middle of it. And believe me, I've totally done that. And just as an advice for myself and for me, for you as well, is don't beat yourself up. Because it's easy to fall into, but when we really look at it, it doesn't serve any purpose. It just makes us feel even worse that we are not where we want to be right now. So don't beat yourself up. Instead, we can look at it from a different angle. And I was taught this by Tony Robbins. I don't know if you know him, but he is a very big motivational speaker, results coach from the US. He does very incredible stuff, so it's really worth looking into what he says. And he has one analogy about getting off track. So when you are flying, and I believe that most of you have been on a plane before, he says something around 90% of the time the plane is actually off course. And what the pilots do then, they just bring it back on course, because they have, you know, their screens and all that, and they can see where the plane has to go and where the plane currently is at. But again, 90% of the time the plane is off course. And the only thing the pilots do is just bring it back on course so that the plane actually lands where it's supposed to land. So I take this analogy because it shows that it's okay if we're not always on track. It's okay if we're not always doing 100% or 110 or whatever is in our imagination and our expectations to ourselves. But instead we can look at it from a different angle, that everybody will fall off track once in a while, fall off track or just get a little bit sidetracked, and that's totally okay. But what we need to do in these moments is to remind ourselves that we can always get back on track. And so another thing that I want to tell you about, or give you as a tip, is in those moments when you fall off track, remember why you started all this. Because, you know, in the beginning when we start something, we are very motivated. And then we do it for a little while, and then life happens and everything gets chaotic, and we fall off track. And then sometimes it's so easy to say like, oh, okay, now I'm already off track. I might as well just stay here. Like, I can never go back to where I was before. But that's not the case. And we can always think back at, why did we start in the first place? What brought us to make that step, to get on that path, get on that track? And if we remember that, oftentimes you get a very different perspective on our journey. Because, and I've mentioned this in so many other videos before, and I will keep mentioning this to you because this is one of the most important things for you to figure out. What is your driving force? And if you have that in your mind, and if you feel that emotion that you tie to your why, then suddenly you become more drawn towards getting back on that track. Because now you know, I know exactly why I need to be on that track. Because, you know, to feel better when I look in the mirror, or just to feel sexy in that dress so that I can feel more connected to my partner. Really, whatever it is. We've been talking about this in other videos. I'm going to make a whole video on this. But again, if you remember this, you will feel more drawn. You will feel pulled towards that track. And that's what you want to feel. Because sometimes, you know, we push ourselves, do this, and pushing it just takes so much energy. But if we have something that pulls us back on track, which is your why, then it will become a lot easier to get back there. And then the third thing, and I think that's one of the most important ones, is to just pick up where you left off. And oftentimes, we overcomplicate it. We've fallen off track and now we think we've lost everything, all our strength and all our progress and the really good habits that we created. We think we've lost everything. And it's just not the case, because we have already learned so much along the way and our body remembers so much. So once we get back on track, it actually often happens a lot easier and quicker to be back in that routine. And so, instead of beating ourselves up and instead of overcomplicating it, just getting back into it. And the very key component in this is to take action. Oftentimes we have a lot of action going on here in our mind, just all the voices telling ourselves what we need to do and that we are, a bad person. I can really talk about this forever because I'm somebody who has a lot of negative self-talk. But in the end, what's important is to take action, to really do something about it. Just trying to shut out those voices and instead do something that will then move you a little bit forward. And really, it's just about the small step, going one step forward, another step forward, another step forward. And we can only do that when we take action and not just up here, but with our full body. So these are my 3 things that I want to give you for getting back on track. Again, super important, not beating ourselves up, just getting back on track, taking action on it, and then also remembering our why and being pulled by that why to get back on track. So with that being said, wish you all the best for your next workout. And if there's anything, just let me know, because when you tell me your challenges, I can support you in the best way. And that's what I'm here for. So with that being said, as always, be powerful. See you soon.